Everyone was dressed in their finest. The garden filled with quiet laughter and clinking glasses until the moment everything changed. In front of everyone, she was called a leech. The words hung in the air like poison, turning heads and silencing the crowd. She stood frozen, her smile fading, eyes darting toward the man she loved. Whispers followed, sharp and cruel. She didn't come for money, and that was all it took for them to judge her. But what no one expected was him. The billionaire everyone respected, the one they thought would just stand there, maybe even walk away. Instead, he looked around at the stunned faces, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, without a word, he reached for her hand. The entire room watched, waiting to see what he would do next. His father's voice had been the loudest, full of anger and control. But this wasn't just about pride or wealth any. Wit was about something deeper. With one bold step, he broke the silence. And what happened next left the entire crowd speechless. Stay tuned, because this story is just getting started. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens after he walks out with her. The moment he took her hand, everything changed. Gasps echoed through the crowd, but he didn't flinch. He didn't even look back. With steady steps, he led her through the stunned guests, past his furious father, and toward the garden gates. But behind the silence was a storm brewing, because no one ever said no to Richard Donovan. The man who built his empire from nothing and controlled everything, including his son's future. She wasn't part of their world. Emma had grown up, working shifts at a local cafe, saving every penny, never expecting to fall into the orbit of someone like Aiden Donovan. Their paths crossed by accident. He spilled coffee on her laptop in a meeting she wasn't even supposed to attend. But something clicked. Over time, what started as polite conversation turned into secret walks, laughter under city lights, and eventually, love that no one else understood. People whispered that she wanted his money, that she played the long game. But they never saw the way he looked at her when no one was watching, or how she stayed by his side through moments his own family never showed up for. And now, walking away meant risking everything. But why now? Why today? As they stepped outside into the cool afternoon air, Emma's fingers trembled in his hand. Aiden didn't say a word, but his grip stayed firm. Like he was holding on to more than just her, like he was holding on to a choice he couldn't undo. Behind them, the party continued in forced silence, whispers spreading like wildfire. Inside, his father was already on the phone, and everyone knew what that meant. Richard Donovan didn't take betrayal lightly. And walking out in front of his entire network with the girl he disapproved of the most was as close to betrayal as it could get. Emma glanced at Aiden. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered, afraid of the fallout still chasing them. But he looked straight ahead, jaw tight. "I did," he said simply. What they didn't know was that Richard had already planned Aiden's engagement with someone from the wealthiest family in the city. A merger disguised as a marriage, and Aiden had just destroyed it in seconds. The woman his father had picked, Madison Clark, wasn't just some socialite. She had power, media ties, and secrets Emma didn't even know existed. And now, with everything unraveling, Madison wasn't planning to walk away quietly. The storm was only beginning. The days that followed were a whirlwind. News of Aiden walking out with Emma spread fast, reaching headlines and investor meetings. Whispers turned into articles. Air throws away empire for calf girl. Paparazzi camped outside Emma's apartment, and her workplace asked her to take a leave for everyone's comfort. She hadn't even spoken to her family yet, too afraid they might believe what they were hearing on the news. Inside the Donovan estate, the tension was unbearable. Richard was furious, calling emergency board meetings, threatening to cut Aiden off from everything. "You can have her," he snapped during one call, but you won't have the company, the trust, or my name." Aiden didn't react. He knew what it meant, but what stung more was hearing his mother's silence. She always stood up for him, but not this time. Meanwhile, Madison made her own move. She appeared on a talk show, playing the victim. "I wish him the best," she said with a practiced smile, "though I do worry he's being manipulated." Her words caused a storm online and overnight. Emma was being painted as a gold digger in every comment section. Aiden tried to protect her, but the pressure was closing in fast. And then came the invitation and exclusive gala hosted by Richard himself. Emma's name was on the guest list. Everyone knew something was coming, but no one knew what. Emma stared at the invitation in her hands, heart pounding. She hadn't expected this on-invite with her name printed in gold, not scribbled in as an afterthought. It felt too polished, too intentional. Aiden was skeptical from the start. "He's planning something," he said quietly, watching the envelope like it might explode. But Emma, tired of hiding and running, said yes. "If they're going to talk about me," she said, "they might as well look me in the eye while they do it." The night of the gala, everything looked perfect on the surface. Glittering chandeliers, soft classical music, the city's most powerful names moving like pieces on a board. But underneath it all, the air buzzed with tension. When Emma walked in beside Aiden, all eyes turned. Smiles were fake, and conversations paused mid-sentence. Richard stood across the room, watching without emotion. Then came the twist, midway through the night. A well-known financial journalist approached Emma offering her a copy of something she hadn't expected. A signed document, leaked anonymously, proving that Madison had once paid someone to fake a scandal involving Emma's past. It wasn't just about jealousy, it was calculated character assassination. Emma clutched the paper. Aiden looked at her, eyes darkening. "Now we know," he said under his breath. But what they didn't know was who leaked it. And why now? Emma held the document tightly, her hands cold despite the warmth of the crowded room. She glanced around, aware that every step she took from here would echo far beyond tonight. Aiden stood beside her, silent but steady, watching as she made her choice. She crossed the floor toward Richard, eyes locked on his. Conversations hushed again. She reached him, handed him the folded paper, and waited. He read its expression unreadable at first, till his jaw clenched and his hand began to shake. The evidence was undeniable. Madison hadn't just lied, she had manufactured an entire scandal to destroy Emma's reputation. And Richard had believed her without question. The betrayal hit him harder than he expected. Across the room, Madison turned pale as whispers started circling her like a storm. Richard looked at Emma then, for the first time not with contempt, but with something close to regret. He didn't apologize, not yet, but he stepped aside, saying nothing as Aiden took Emma's hand and led her to the center of the room. For the first time, they stood there not as outcasts, but as equals. Then came the twist. The journalist who leaked the truth. It wasn't a reporter, it was Aiden's mother. Quiet, observant, and tired of watching from the sidelines. She had finally made her move. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Madison quietly disappeared from the spotlight, her credibility shattered. The fake scandal unraveled piece by piece, and the truth gave Emma something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Richard, though still guarded, began to step back from the company, letting Aiden take on more responsibility. It wasn't an apology, but it was a beginning. And while he never said the words aloud, his actions finally started to speak for him. Emma didn't ask for headlines or recognition. She went back to the cafe for a while, finding comfort in simple things. But now, when she walked through the city, people saw her differently, not as a gold digger, not as someone lucky to have Aiden, but as someone who stood tall when others tried to bury her. Aiden stayed by her side, choosing love over legacy, and in the end, building both on their own terms. His mother, once silent in the background, became Emma's quiet supporter, reminding her that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers at the right moment. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes, standing up for love isn't just brave, it changes everything.